let's start with a clausal form consisting of P, not PQ, not R, and not P, not Q, R. In other words, P must be true, not P or Q must be true, not R must be true, not P or not Q or R must be true. You remember those puzzles? Did you ever do one of those where Jensen is the neighbor of Johnson, and one of them drinks apple juice and the other drinks wine, and whoever drinks wine doesn't have a gun in his house.
Oh, logicus. Yeah.
So, sorry?
Logicus.
Yeah, there are different names for them, but this might remember you of that. So we have a lot of statements, but all of the statements have choices inside, and essentially what you do when you solve one of those by hand is also try out one of the possibilities. So this is one way a computer could do it. So if we have this clausal form, and we want to apply resolution, we have to look for clashing clauses. What clashing clause there would you like me to resolve first? Anyone?
P and not P.
Let's do P and, well, okay, the clauses would then be P on the other hand and not P or Q. Well, P on the one hand and not P or Q on the other hand. So I'm going to draw a tree where this process is visualized. So I take P and not P, Q, apply a resolution there. What comes out? Yeah, I take the union, take out both P and not P, so I'm left only with Q. Right, so what now? Not yet done. Can we do anything with Q? Or can we do anything with the other clauses that we already have? Yeah, Mark.
You can clash it with not P or not Q.
Yes, okay, let's do that. Let's take the clause not P, not Q, R. Say, okay, this clashes clearly. So now, what comes out?
Not P or R.
Yes, exactly, not P, R. Anyone? Sorry, Henk.
The last one also clashes with P.
Yes, it does.
Because P is still in the...
Yeah, it's still in the set. We could alternatively or additionally say it clashes with P, and so then it becomes not P, not QR comes out. So now we have derived through a sequence of resolutions both not P R and not QR.
Yeah.
Sorry?
He actually meant that not PR clashes with
Ah, yes. Okay, it does. Okay, but this now starts to be a little bit larger, but I'll say something about that later. So, indeed, P clashes with not PR, and out comes R. If you take a apply resolution, well, last step should hopefully be evident to everybody.
Not R.
Yes, we have not R. We haven't used not R. That alone should give you a suspicion that maybe it's time to use it. But of course, here is a case where applying resolution actually gives you the empty clause. Yeah, the union of R and not R, but we take out both R and not R, so we're left with nothing. Done. This is a valid application of the resolution algorithm. Note, by the way, that of course this is not a deterministic algorithm. It's very much non-deterministic because it says choose a new pair. Whenever you see choose, it means non-deterministic. So this is a valid resolution, and we just derived that the original formula is unsatisfiable, but it's not the only valid resolution. There are other ways to do it.
So how do you resolve this in practice? Do you just take random clashing pairs, or is there some smart way?
There are smart ways, there are heuristics to do it. Actually, what people do in practice is they start out by applying the rules that were on the previous slide. Before I presented resolution, we have all those fairly simple arguments that get rid of clauses or make your clausal form a lot smaller. Typically, people first do that, and then they start looking at the resolution.
About those rules, if I look at this, I can see that P
Yes.
So I can remove not P from the other
Yeah.
clauses.
Yes.
And then can I do it again? Because then, for instance, Q is a single.
Yes, yes. In fact, this particular example, you might have been just as well off by not applying the resolution rule, but applying the other rules that I presented before that. Exactly as you say, you can say, okay, P is a singleton clause, so I can remove that singleton clause. Every other clause where P appears positively, and I can remove not P from all the clauses where not P is in. And as you remarked, then the same thing happens for the second clause. Now Q is will be a singleton clause, and can do the same. And so actually, without doing any resolution, I think you're already at the empty clause. Yeah, because afterwards you can do the same thing you are. So indeed, this simple example is perfectly fine without the resolution rule. So anyway, the heuristic for applying resolution would be start with small clauses. That works better than large ones.
Okay, we said we end up with the empty clause. Is that because there are no more atoms in a clause, or that we have no more clauses left?
Good question. Is the first of those. The empty clause is a clause with no atoms. If you take the empty set of clauses, actually that is really true.
Yeah.
If you have no clauses to satisfy, you're done. Right? So if you're left somehow with an empty set of clauses, then you've just proved that your original formula is co-satisfiable with true, and so your original formula is satisfiable. Yeah, so the example over here is just to show how resolution works. It doesn't show you that resolution is the best method to apply. In fact, it's not for this example.
So all clauses must be used, right?
Not necessarily. If you find the unsatisfiable clause without using other clauses, some of the other clauses, you're also done.
Oh, right, because you're checking unsatisfiable.
That's right. Yeah. So whenever you find the unsatisfiable clause, well, the whole thing must be unsatisfiable. These.
Is the resolution procedure a decision procedure?
Good question. That is actually the next slide, and I'll do that one, and then I'll give you a break. So that was the example. I just went through it on the slide. And then this slide tells you about resolution trees. Actually, the thing on the whiteboard is a resolution tree, except that it, in the end, wasn't a tree, because I did some things that I didn't use over there, but it's still called a tree. Right? My wrong interpretation of Henk's suggestion led to this branch over here, which in the end I didn't use. Which is actually an interesting point to note, because you don't know where you're going with the resolution. You might end up in dead branches. I mean, you might do things that you don't use at the end. You don't know, right? So, again, like the semantic tableau thing, this is essentially a search procedure. You'd like to find the path that goes fastest to the unsatisfiable clause. And what that path is, you still have to find out. So it's a search procedure, and the same thing applies as before. When you have a search, you actually want to take branches. You want to take choices that branch as little as possible, but it's not so obvious here what that branch is. So certainly, if one resolution leads to the unsatisfiable clause, then all resolutions will eventually end up at the unsatisfiable clause, but you might be doing a lot of superfluous work in some cases where it can be a lot easier. And here's an example of that. I think it was an example of that. No, this is just a tree for another example. I'll skip this one. No, this is the same one as before. It's already on the whiteboard. But if you take this clausal form over here, which has P or Q or not R, also P or not Q or R, also R and also not R, if you're not clever, then you will do some work and build a tree that has several levels until you find out that what happens. Actually, I'm not sure that I understand what I did here. This is a resolution tree. Actually, it's with respect to the whiteboard, it's written upside down, but I'm sure that you saw that. But this somehow doesn't go anywhere. Whereas if you start with R and not R, then you find the unsatisfiable clause straight away and you're done. Yes.
So the left one is an example of making a bad choice.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for helping me out. That is what it was for.
This is, yeah, it doesn't mean that it's satisfying.
That is correct. So, indeed, the example here, as you said, Mark said, shows that if you take bad choice, you may end up with a clause that you really can't do anything more with anymore. Just P over here. Well, what can you do with P in the set of clauses that I started with? Not much, because there's nothing it clashes with. Whereas if you make a more fortunate or maybe more clever choice, you start with R and R bar straight away and find the satisfiable clause.
So resolution is only used for proving unsatisfiability.
Yes, like the semantic tableau, resolution is for unsatisfiability. Well, actually, it's even less. Well, semantic tableau is more useful, because if you find an open branch in the semantic tableau, then you actually have a model for your original formula. If you fail to find the empty clause, you know nothing, really, because this all works modulo this co-satisfiability. You don't even know that the set of models of what you end up with is the same as the set of models that you started with. So resolution in that sense is less satisfying because you know less, but sometimes it's faster. Okay, thesis question about decidability. Is this a decision procedure? The answer is yes. It's a decision procedure for unsatisfiability.